Yes, you guys, it is the writer's class this time because, hey, when you got someone about writing, you gotta make it the writer's class. Yeah, that was a boring one. I really thought I was gonna come up with something much better and much cooler right there, and because I put all the energy in, and then immediately was like, can't think of a line. Oh well. Sorry, y'all. Hate to disappoint. I'm Nona, by the way. Yeah. And there's normally a jade to the side, but as you can see, there's just an empty wall. No jade today. Uh, and we're part of the End I Thought Ladies. I'm one half of the End I Thought Ladies. And you can, we wrote 7 books. Yeah, 7 books. Is it 7 now? It is 7. 7 books. Go figure. And I thought divorce was bad, and I thought being grown up was easy. If only I were me, a memoir in verse, Foreign Coffee, Widow's Web, and Widow's Debt. Those are audiobooks. You can get those wherever you find audiobooks. I'm moving really, really fast today, in case you didn't notice, because the lady on with me, she said she had a little tickle in her throat. So I was like, I know how bad that gets, when you get that tickle and you're like, oh, I got a cough. And she was like, it's not there right now. So I'm trying to bulldoze through this. Okay. You can get you can find the rest of our 8 books, because no, 9 books. Great. We have 17. We're coming out with number 18 soon. You can find those at www.andithoughtLadies.com. And no car salesman style and no shtick about sign language today, because, well, I think it's important to stick with the basics today. No tickle in the throat. That's what we're gonna do. Stick with the basics.
Yeah.
All righty. But you guys aren't here to hear about me. You're here to hear about our wonderful guest. Wonderful guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Kathleen Schmidt. I am the president of my own public relations firm called Kathleen Schmidt Public Relations, and the author of the Substack called Publishing Confidential.
Okay. The fact that you called it publishing confidential, I feel like you're like an LA private eye.
That was the idea.
Yeah. So that you doing it on the side, catching cheating
Yeah.
spouses and solving murders.
Yep. Exactly. I could if I wanted to.
I think you could. I think it takes so many of those same qualities to be in public relations as I think it would to catch like a murder.
100%.
So how did you get started?
I was an English major in undergrad, and I kind of always wanted to be a writer, but the jobs that I interviewed for in publishing, they were all editorial jobs. And this was back in like 1995, 1996. They paid like $9,000 a year. And I needed to pay my student loans. I needed to pay my car payment. I needed to pay my insurance and all that. So I ended up taking a job as a publicity assistant because at that time, back in 1996, it paid $23,000 a year, which was more than any of my friends were making. So I took a publicity assistant job, not really knowing what I was getting into. It was a small publisher in New Jersey, and that's kind of, the rest is history.
So for me to understand this, I just want to make sure I know
Mhm.
exactly what you just said, because
Mhm.
I'm slow. You can see the blonde coming in today. I'm joking. Uh, so you are actually a PR person for books, not a PR person in general that happened to pick up books, or an author that
Yeah.
was like, I'm good at this PR. Let me give it a try. What exactly goes into PR for books?
Well, I mean, the reason why I was attracted to it was because I'm a total media junkie, I'm a pop culture junkie, and I happen to love books. So those three things combined help get you, into doing PR for books. But I also, you know, I also really wanted to understand how books came to the marketplace. Like I was curious, how books got reviewed, like how did that all work? And as I started to learn, and back then there were way more places to get attention for books. As I started to learn and as I started to get books reviewed and I started to get publicity for things that I was working on, I got kind of addicted to it because it was really cool to see stuff that I was working on get into the media. And that's, early on in my 20s is when I learned how to form relationships with media people. I learned what that dynamic is all about. And, it was, I was like a fish out of water. I didn't know anything. And I remember my boss at the time came out with a list of media people to call because we didn't even have email back then yet, and said, I need you to call these 10 people and pitch them this. This is what you're going to say. Some of them are not going to be nice to you because you're a publicist. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means, but I soon found out, that people were so about publicists calling and pitching. And so it was a real learning experience for me because I'm actually super introverted and shy. And it was probably the most challenging job that I can think of for myself because I'd rather like not talk to anybody.
All right, so I have a two-part question, but it's pretty much
Mhm,
the same question. Every author, so I dabble in PR on
mhm.
occasion. And every author I ever talk to, like, can you give me Good Morning America or the Today Show, Good Morning Britain, Good Morning Australia? And you're like, but how
Right.
do you? Because like you like when they say it, you're like, that's a huge get.
Yeah.
That's a huge ask. Thanks for that. Like that's what I want. And you're like, ooh, that's nice. So how do we get ourselves ready to get ready to be on Good Morning America? Because a lot of times they ask and it's they just wrote the book last week and you're like, ooh, there's some steps. So I want someone else to tell them. That's not me.
Well, I mean, if you're lucky enough to get on Good Morning America, because they, with the dawn of the book clubs, the morning show book clubs, they really don't have fiction authors on anymore. But if you're a nonfiction author and you go on, it doesn't hurt to do a little bit of media training beforehand. And by that I mean, you know, taking bullet points from your book and kind of like doing a Q&A with yourself about the book, or having someone help you do a Q&A about the book. When I work with authors, I book them on a lot of podcasts, so I give them like 2 pages of possible questions and talking points that I ask them to go over before they do podcast interviews so that they won't get caught off guard. It's kind of a security blanket to have, honestly, because most of the time you'll do fine. Most of the time it's just, you know, holy crap, I'm going to be on national TV. It happened to me. I was on CNN once, like on set, and I was being interviewed, and I was just like, I felt frozen. And, like I felt when I get anxious and
No, it's frozen. Yep, she. You were saying about media training?
yes, I was saying that, it doesn't hurt to do a little media training before you're going to do a podcast or even a local TV show. If you have somebody that can kind of give you a mock interview, based on some questions you write down, because you know the material better than anybody else does. You always have to remember that. So it's not a bad thing to have a quick Q&A with someone, and just sort of when when you are on a podcast or are on, TV, just kind of zone out everything else happening around you.
I love that. I absolutely love that zone out. I just want to say, like, when you talked about being on national television and being a little nervous, because I'm a narcissist, I'm gonna tell my story in the middle of her interview. I'm gonna tell my story. I just took a flask and filled it full of something, and I didn't think I would. I was like, I'm not gonna need it. And then before I got on there, I had finished it, but it was a good interview. They were like, "You were so lively," and I'm
I
like,
mean, whatever
"Yeah."
works, you know, whatever works.
Maybe a tip for your next one, but I
Yep.
think like on CNN, you got to be serious.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in situations where, I've been at the Today Show and this actually happened. I was there with a particular author who was absolutely terrified to go on camera, and she disappeared into the bathroom to vomit. And the producers were like, "You have to get her out of the bathroom. We're going on air." Like, I was getting screamed at, and it was kind of just like, "Well, what do you want me to do? Like, do you want her to puke on air?" You know? So, things can get interesting. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and I thought I had an interesting one. Thank you. I can't wait to read books about like your life as a PR person for book, and or pitch a show to Hollywood about it. That would be great. You need to do
God.
that. Like,
I think a lot of people would have to be dead before I did that, so I wouldn't get sued.
okay. Last question is: what 3 points do you think that authors need to know in order to like have the most successful marketing and public relations campaign for their book?
Know your material and know where it will fit in well. I get a lot of questions from authors about doing certain media outlets, and I kind of have to go back to them and say, well, how do you think this fits in? Because, it's my job to know the media. It's my job to know podcasts, to newsletters, TV, online stuff. And, if someone comes to me and is like, I want to be on the Jennifer Hudson show or the Drew Barrymore show, and they're not a celebrity, I'm like, well, what do you think you're going to do on this show? It's not going to happen. So, be realistic about, what medium your book fits into. The second thing I would say is, do some research. If you have comp titles that like books that are in the same spirit as yours, look up what happened for them. Look up what podcasts happened for them or what kind of media they got, and do a little research on your own, because that will better inform you of what's possible for your book. Uh,
All right. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for those two interesting tips on how we can get ready for public relations. I'm looking forward to putting them into practice myself. You can find out everything about Kathleen at ksmpr.com. You can just look her up and look up her PR space and Google. As for me, you can find out everything that your ladies are up to at www.andithoughladies.com. And while you're there, take a moment, go down to the bottom of the page and find the charities that we proudly support. We ask that you take a moment to support them too. Remember that wisdom is all around you if you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona. Oh, yeah, and the missing Jade. Thanks for listening. Okay, so we definitely need media training, and we have like one more to go. So what's that special third one?
The third one I think is the most important one, and that is to prepare yourself for the long haul. In a perfect world, media would happen on publication day, everything would happen, right around when the book comes out, but that's not how anything works. So I end up working with authors, for months after their books come out, because nothing nothing slows down. And I feel like after the book comes out, you definitely need as much support as you did, in the months leading up to the book coming out. So my message to authors would be don't give up. If things aren't happening right when the publication date occurs, don't give up. It doesn't mean your book's a failure. It means it's just going to take a little more time in the oven to cook, and things will happen.
Love that. Thank you so much for saying that, because it's funny how many times I work with people and it's like a year later, or
Hmm.
some people, and it's like uh so one person's like 10 years later and they're
My
still doing
gosh.
interviews.
Yeah.
Like it's like it's not just because your book just came out, you have to have everything right then. Because I mean, honestly, how bored would you get? Because
Very.
your book is out for forever and you're gonna be like, never talking about it again. It was fun.
Yeah. I mean, I book a ton of podcasts for my authors, and they're all, I mean, it's very subject matter based. It's not timing based, it's subject matter based. So that's something also to remember. Like if your book is something timely, like politics or current events or something like that, then it matters more that the media you do happens when the book comes out. But when it's just like an evergreen topic like mental health or something, to do with trauma or something like that, those are evergreen topics. People are always talking about them. So there's always a podcast that's going to be willing to have you on.
I think my favorite one is food, but then it's because
Yeah.
I like to eat.
Food podcasts are good too, and food books are good.
Yes. Before we leave, can you tell us where we can find out more information about you and how we can book you as our PR person to put us on podcasts? And if you're a celebrity,
Sure.
probably maybe Jennifer Hudson, because apparently you can only get on there if you're a celebrity.
Yeah, people can check me out at my website. It's kmspr.com. And if you want to subscribe to the Substack newsletter, it's Publishing Confidential on Substack.
It's the one that makes you feel like you're going to a detective agency.
Yes,
Publishing.
exactly.
Show.
Right.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, Kathleen.
Thanks
I
for having me.
really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
But then again, PR is one of my favorite subjects. Anytime I
Is
can talk
it?
about the possibility of being in front of a camera, I'm
I dread it. I dread it. I'm just so not the person in front of things. I'm behind the scenes. I like being behind the scenes. I just when this my Substack started getting more attention, I wanted to go hide because I was like, I don't want to be the person talking about this. I just want to write my little newsletter.
Oh, so this is like a little secret, y'all. Y'all gotta get over there immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately to read this newsletter. So I'm gonna wrap up for us over here. And I
Okay.
say ask this normally a Jade, and there is no Jade today. She's busy. Eye roll right there. Insert eye roll. That's what I was doing.
Right.
I'm Winona. I'm one half of the And I Thought Ladies, and you can find out everything that your ladies are up to at www.andithoughladies.com. And while you're there, you can go down to the middle of the page, not the bottom of the page anymore, but the middle of the page, and you can see the charities that we proudly support. We ask that you give a moment to support them too. That doesn't mean that you have to give money. You could give them time, or sometimes they just need information, so you could do that. We thank you in advance for that. Remember that wisdom is all around you if you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona and the Missing Jade. Oh, yeah. Thanks for listening.